I am very excited to now talk to you about self-determination theory. This will be a theory we talk about multiple times and as a thread that weaves throughout the course. So self-determination theory, you may be familiar with it or you may not. You will find that successful coaches and sales managers have already found it on their own. It's one of those intuitive things that you can typically figure out most of without knowing about. But if you do know about it, it helps paint a picture for the things you need to work on that maybe you have not yet embraced about self-determination theory. So let's jump in and talk about this theory. So by the end of this lesson, you'll be able to define self-determination theory and what makes it work, why does it work, and why is it important. You'll find that every championship team you've ever seen in sports that's been super successful or run a dynasty, you can tie this back to self-determination theory every single time. Without a doubt. There's going to be a reason it hasn't been disproven yet as a theory. And then how are we currently using self-determination theory on our team? We'll be able to identify that through a work exercise at the very end of this lesson. So let's jump in. What is self-determination theory? So it was a theory that was developed in 1985 that was specifically around human behavior. And what they came up with is this is currently the best motivation that can be provided by a coach or a manager in any situation that humans will thrive towards. And you'll see why based on the components. So it has to do, and we'll define these better, so don't feel like we're going to stay just academic at the definition layers or the word layers. So it has to do with having autonomy, having competence and being able to show competence, and last but not least, probably the most important, relatedness. And we'll talk about all three of these individually. So let's start with autonomy. Autonomy means nothing more than feeling the ability to feel in control. Nobody wants to be micromanaged. You'll agree with me, I'm sure, that the worst managers you've had don't give you autonomy. They don't give you control of your time. And you need to ask yourself, how much control do your reps have? How much control do they have of their time, of their calendar, of their decisions? And these are the things that you have to be able to determine to see if you're allowing autonomy. You know that you thrive when you have the most control over things in your life. When you don't have control, when things are just dictated to you, you're not very motivated. When you have control over the decisions, you feel more in power. You feel like you're being given trust. And those are the things in a relationship or in your career. Autonomy is a big, important item, and you want to give as much of that control as possible. More control is better. So competence. Competence is interesting, and I think we're going to talk about this in detail in this lesson, and I'm going to reinforce it throughout. Competence is objective. It is not a feeling. It is not a, I'm going to use the word feeling in some of these definitions in a second, but it really comes down to measurements that you can show very specific objectivity. If I say that I'm really good at something, doesn't matter what it is, I've improved in something, being able to see it on paper with tracking and KPIs, probably a bad word for some of you because it's overused and over requested by upper management typically. So when you're looking at competence, what you're looking for are measurements that you can show improvement. Most human beings improve very minimally over time. It's a 1% improvement every day. If you're an athlete, it's getting bigger, faster, stronger, better, more consistent. Whatever it is, it becomes gradual, and it's very hard to see the improvement. And your job, just like a coach's job, is to show those objective improvements. Your job as a manager is to show those objective improvements for your reps. There's going to be an early section where we gather a bunch of data. We want to revisit that data later on to show competence, and it's objective. You say, hey, you've really improved in an area, rep, and they go, I don't feel like I have. Well, it doesn't matter how you feel. Let me show you the data that shows you have. That gives a real self esteem boost to a rep that's being able to say, I've improved in an area and I'm showing more competence than I did before. It's one thing to say, I'm really good at something. It's another thing to show I've improved in something objectively. So competence is the objectively being able to feel and see one's growth, to be able to objectively feel and see one's improvements. When I show them the data, their feelings change about it. So it's not about how do you feel about it. I'll give you another example. I'm a runner, always have been, and somebody had asked me, well, how much do you run right now? And this is in my older years. And I said, well, I think I'm running about this many miles a week, X number of miles a week. And when I went back and looked at a training log and objectively reviewed, I was running much less than I had claimed to be. And it's because I felt like I was running more than I was running. And so this is why you want to write things down. And we're going to talk about that in a second. That this is why we write them down. We want to be able to capture objective information. If we just talk about it, which is common for sales managers, we're talking about, hey, you've really improved in this area. Show them the data. Show them with their own eyes. Show them a graph of actual data that gives them information that shows them they've improved. Throughout this course, I'm going to ask you to write a lot of things down. And for those of you that are taking the course on the one side that's just the learning course, you're not going to have anybody checking up on you. And it's going to be very easy to say, yeah, I'll fill that out later. I encourage you, if you really want to get improvement, you need to write these things down, because we're going to come back to them over and over again, and it'll get you in the habit of capturing this information objectively and accurately, rather than, well, I think it's this. No, we want to know it's this, and we want to write it down so that we can then say, did we improve over a period of time? So make sure you get in the habit right now of writing it down. So the last section of self-determination theory is probably the most important. I want you to think of coaches again, sports coaching, and I want you to think of coaches that you recognize, that you know, and then the ones that have won championships over and over again and ran a dynasty. So there's these really, really good coaches. They've been around a long time. Maybe they won one championship. Maybe they won no championships, but they're always right there. They're always at the edge. And then there's these other guys who win many, many, many championships. And it's, what is the difference? What is the delta between those two programs or organizations? And believe it or not, I've got a strong opinion that relatedness is what wins the day. And this is about building a community. This is about, for those of you that are just about, this is my sales team. I've got my sales reps and me and maybe a few support people that we pull in, and that's the team. And we're strong and we're tight-knit. Well, that's great. You need to be tight-knit. But the bigger your arm reach can be around the organization, and pulling in more and more people into it makes it more related, and it makes people a part of something. People want to be a part of something more successful. The teams that win the championships have great fan bases, especially during the dynasty. And yeah, part of it's because they're winning, but the other part of it is people want to be a part of something successful, and they help build the hype and the excitement and people wanting to perform above themselves, because there's more people in the stands and there's more people reaching out to them and there's more people wanting to be a part of it. And it gains their self-esteem up to where they're more and more doing it for others and not just for themselves. And that's what you really want to get to, is where it's about something bigger than just yourself or just your team. So what we're looking for is people want to belong to something bigger than themselves. They really do. If you think of some of the biggest moments in your life, was it more exciting just to celebrate by yourself because you'd accomplished something all on your own? Or did you have a community around you, whether it was family and friends? Your family and friends were there supporting you, believing in you. And when you pulled them in, it felt better. And the bigger that group is, as human beings, no matter how mechanical you may think you are, the bigger the group and the audience and the crowd is supporting you, the better you feel about everything. And the more you want them to be a part of it. It's not just about me, look at me. Let me beat my chest about how great I am. It's about how good we all were together, working in the same direction for the same goal. That's what relatedness is really about. And are you building that community today? And this is the hardest and most subjective, but the most important part of the theory. So it's hard to find a way to say, how do I reach out? I'm going to give you some strategies on building relatedness to other groups in your organization and other groups outside your organization that we're going to talk about through this program. So I want you to be open-minded to, how do I build a bigger team, the big team. Your sales team is your sales team. I'm talking about, I need a team. I need a crowd. I need a support mechanism. What does that look like, and how big can it be? Make it as big as you can, because the bigger it is, the better. So great teams have all of this, and they have all three of the self-determination theory parts, and they're really good at all three of those. So that's what we want to do, is get good at all three of these sections. So I will make suggestions, but this is really for you to make your own on how you can make people more autonomous on their decisions, on their schedules, on their time, how you can make them more competent and help them feel it objectively, that it's objective. It's not just you saying they're better. They can see they're improving through actual objective measurements. And then how do I build a bigger crowd and audience, a bigger team that's really supporting your sales team? So it's not just your team, it's about more than just your team. So in conclusion, self-determination theory matters. It can be one of the leading indicators of success for you. If you want to build a dynastic program, a dynastic sales team that nobody else can top or beat or match, it has to do with these three components. There's no way around it. So we will integrate this thread of self-determination theory all the way through the course, every chance we get, where we can show autonomy and competence and relatedness, we will. And a winning community is bigger than a winning team, which is bigger than a winning individual. Being a winner individually is great. Pound your chest, be excited, but it loses some flavor as you go outside of your immediate circle. When the circle gets bigger, it's a more exciting situation. And when the circle is huge, everybody's involved, and it's just so much more exciting. So we're going to talk about what autonomy, competence, and relatedness do you provide for your team, and we're going to start talking about writing that down. So their first action item in the course is there's a worksheet attached. So all of the worksheets are in PDF and Word format. For those of you that want to print out a PDF and write it in, that is there for you. And if you want to edit a Word document to have a digital copy, that's available to you in the course down below. So you've got this attached. I want you to go in and identify, where are you already providing autonomy, competence, and relatedness for your team. And I want you to identify where you want to add it. And just to show you that this is not a big worksheet, I want you to see what it looks like. This is a self-determination theory worksheet right here, and it's a very simple, these are some example answers that you might have, but 3 sections of where you are today and 3 sections of what you want to add. I encourage you, very much so, write it down so that you can start understanding where you're at as a baseline and where you want to get to as a goal. This is going to be a muscle we exercise over and over again. So it's a simple exercise. Let's start with getting this one filled out, and I'll see you in the next lesson.